The first and the last time that I ever went to the Starbucks was with my friend Nate. He told me that the coffee there is great and that I can befriend some girls in there. Though the thing with Nate was that it was all about the girls for him. And I didn't care much about that, at least not until I actually left for college. My school were just over and Nate was already starting the first year of college. He was a year older than me and he was already settling into the college. And I was about to join him in the same college a year later. And they'd always told me with girls, you want to be experienced as you can because college is rough as an inexperienced person. And when I often ask him, isn't college for studies? And he would just say, yes, if you want to be a doctor or something, but even need to have a good time in there. And even though every time he opened his mouth, he sounded like an inside, he was actually a very caring and generous man and a great friend on top of that. To top it all off, he was an ace student, and I've gotten into all Ivy League colleges, but ignore them. He was a legend to us, and that is why I looked up to him. He was a great mentor, regardless of that shallow image that he tried to show off at. Our friendship was much more than I had with everyone who was in my class. So I hang out with Nate often. Nate was the kind of person you would think would be very communist, on the edge kind of the guy. But with all the things considered, he was very much into Starbucks. And it was the same Starbucks that he would go to every time. It was weird at first when I thought about it, and then I realized that it wasn't actually the coffee that it was interested in. As a matter of fact, it was the girl who made it. Nate was in love with this girl who worked at the Starbucks, and he often visited the place because of the girl. At first, you wouldn't know that he was infatuated by her, but the frequent visits and the occasional blushing when she was around made it certain that Nate wasn't at the place for the sake of coffee. It was the first time that I saw Nate acting weird and underconfident. You wouldn't cross him as someone who would be this blushing and so quiet. It was out of ordinary for him to act in such a way. But it was Nate. He was obsessive in everything he did, and this felt like one of those occasions. Every single time we went to the Starbucks, he would line up and switch lines when she wasn't the one serving the coffee. Then one day when we were sitting, I said to Nate, "Come on, man, you have to ask her out. You're freaking Nate. You're the boss, man." And Nate looked at me as he wanted to get back the confidence that he was losing and decided that he will ask the girl out. And he did. Her name was Natalie, and they were Nate and Natalie and looked so good together, but they were meant to be together. They were pretty much in love. And now that Nate had Natalie, he would spend much less time. Nate even thanked me when they got together as if I did everything. Nate and Natalie were going perfectly, and now we would hang out more in the Starbucks and get more and more free coffees. They were all good and tight when one day something happened that forever changed everything. It was the usual Friday night, and we were all at the Starbucks. Nate was sitting around, and Natalie was waiting for the shift to get over. And then from the front gate, the guy came at. His name was Michael. Michael was one of those quiet kids that always had a thing for Natalie. He came inside and straight away came over to our table and said to Nate, "You're not good enough for Natalie. You'll never be. And you try, I will make sure you die." And then Nate said, "All right, man," and then shrugged him off. But that must have Michael, because the next thing he did was took the gun out and then shot Nate in his chest. There was nothing but silence. Nate's blood spattered across my face, and I was in shock of everything. And Nate was lying lifeless. And I was in complete trauma of losing my friend. And then that was the day that I last entered the Starbucks. There are still flashbacks of the incident that keep me awake in the night.